Welcome to Mohawk College's second annual Mindshift Entrepreneurship Conference. We're thrilled to have our students, our faculty, our alumni, and our community partners here today. I always look forward to this part of our conference because I get an opportunity to talk to some of the outstanding entrepreneurs that we have here in Canada. And today's no exception. You've seen their bios, you've heard a bit of their stories. So Tonya, Michelle, David, Jen, I thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun fireside chat. So just think that we're at a great big dining room table and we're just talking. We're doing this for the first time ever online because we're in a COVID situation. And maybe next year we'll be back to a live conference, but for now, this is how we're going to do it. So let's have fun. Let's kick it off here. How many of you have worked for somebody before you became an entrepreneur? Okay, and how many of you?
What was the question?
How many of you have worked for somebody else before you became an entrepreneur?
Yes.
So many of you. And I always ask the question, would you ever go back now and work for somebody again?
Probably not.
And that's mostly the answers that I get. Probably not. Are entrepreneurs different? I had a student write to me in a paper, I think entrepreneurs are different. Are they different? Anybody?
I'll say yes.
How are they different, David?
We think differently. We look for opportunities. We look to collaborate. We're more creative. We think outside the box. I remember taking a job with the city of Toronto about 5 years ago. And I felt like that square peg in a round hole. And they had systems and no, this is the way we do it. And it's like, well, yeah, but when you're an entrepreneur, you just do it, right? I got called on the carpet for reaching out to get media coverage for an event I was working on. And they said, no, it's got to go through our PR, our communications team down at head office. And I went, yeah, but, as an entrepreneur, we just do it, right? So getting used to that protocol and the system and the systems of other people takes a lot of work. Whereas entrepreneurs, we're system busters. We bust the system. We create our own systems.
Yeah.
And that I think, to me, is the distinction between an entrepreneur and an employee.
Jen, would you ever work for somebody again?
Well, probably I wouldn't want to, but if I had to, I would.
If you had
I'm
to.
sure everybody would. And I totally agree with David that I think we just think differently. And unfortunately, when you are working for people or in groups with other people, in my personal experience, owners and operators of companies tend to love me because I made them lots of money. My previous career was in sales. So you're out there really pounding the pavement, getting contracts and deals made for the people that you're working for. However, the internal staff and sort of my direct bosses never probably loved how I operated because, again, I would just figure out how to get things done. And we maneuver through the systems, if you will.
Yeah. Michelle, did you ever have a job or have you always been an entrepreneur?
No, I had a job. I had many jobs.
Yeah.
What I found is that I'd never held a job for very long.
Okay.
And it's partly for the reasons that Jen and David already mentioned. I'm going to half agree and half disagree with what's been said so far. I think it's too easy to say, well, we're different. I think everybody's different. And you find many, many, many creative people, great thinkers, driven, go-getters who are working in corporate and just have found a way to navigate the internal systems. It's not so, I think, it's not so much by what we can do. It's more about how much what we can't do. It's like we just find it hard to fit into those systems, as David said. I fully agree with you. But there are people who can and are creative and are go-getters and find a way to do it, and they're wonderful. And I like to hire those people for me.
I've done a little bit of research on sort of, entrepreneurs over my career, which has been a long one in the world of entrepreneurship. And there's a great line: if you've been fired from a job once, you're supposed to be a good entrepreneur. If you've been fired from a job twice, you're an even better entrepreneur. The third time, you're not sure if you quit or you got fired. It was kind of a toss up as you were yelling at your boss going out the door. You're an outstanding entrepreneur. And Michelle, I think maybe you're right. It's just there are people that work for companies trying to navigate what works for them within that company. Is there a right time and a wrong time to start a business in somebody's life?
Can I just answer one thing that I think was missing from what makes an entrepreneur different?
Yeah.
Risk. We risk everything for our business.
Yeah.
When I started this company, I remortgaged my house 3 times. I didn't get paid for 5 years. Everything I made went right back into the business. And you have to have a strong, ironclad gut to be able to make that decision that you're going to risk it all. And if it all fails, you're going to be okay with that. And a lot of people go into entrepreneurism, don't think like that, and they fail and they lose everything, and then they're lost. But, from the very get-go, Adam and I were like, hey, if this doesn't work, we'll go and move in with my parents for however long it takes, flip burgers until we get back on our feet. And you have to have that kind of mentality to get through the hard times of the beginning of the business.
Yeah. I asked a very successful entrepreneur once about risk, right? And they had such an interesting answer. I said, what was the risk in starting your business? And typically, Tony, what you just said, that's the risk, right? But his answer to me was, Steve, the risk was in me not starting the business. And I thought that was an interesting way to think about it. Anybody ever have those thoughts of what would have happened if you had not started your business? Jen, what would have happened if you hadn't started?
Well, now I have said that, again, much like what Tony is saying, knowing that I always tell our entire team, we're in a giant experiment right now. This still may not work, right? But I'm totally comfortable in that space, and portraying that message to our team, because I want them to be super curious, super creative, super innovative, and give them the opportunity to fail over and over again. But when I had thought about, if I didn't do this, I don't think I could. I feel like I had to try at the very least, and that was like the bare minimum. So I kept trying for years and years, still worked in my full-time position and did this at nights and on the weekend, and kept just trying, and then got to a point where I knew it was working, and that's when I quit my full-time job and went all in. But I knew I don't want to die not trying.
Michelle, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to bridge something that Tonya said, and now Jen kind of alluded to as well. So you asked the question, when is the right time to start?
Yep.
And the right time is when you really, really want to.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel that you can't not do it. And I fully agree with Jen. The risk is I don't think I could have lived with myself if I hadn't gone off on my own and done it, my way.
Yeah. Let me go to a different theme here for 1 second. I use the term eating the frog. You probably have all heard that term before. Eating the frog is doing the hardest thing in the day you might have to do first. And I relate it to entrepreneurs. What's the hardest thing for all of you that you've got to do during the day first, that you want to get it off your plate? It may be something that you don't want to have to do, but it's part of you moving forward successfully. David, do you want to start with yourself?
Yeah, I think I have a morning ritual, and a lot of people do. It's based on the book by Hal Elrod called The Miracle Morning. And so the hardest thing is keeping up with my journaling, meditating, and affirmations, my gratitude journal, and then exercise. And once I get that done, then the rest of the day is a piece of cake. So the hardest thing might be, so Steve, as you know, I had a radio background like yourself,
Mhm.
and I used to work in advertising sales, and I had a boss. Pardon my expression here; they can edit this out. Who used to say, book your hardest clients on a certain time, on a certain day of the week, and he called it asshole afternoon. So you call on all your top clients on that Thursday afternoon from 1 till 5, and then you got it out of the way. So maybe it's maybe sales isn't your thing, or the bookkeeping, or the research. So just schedule that first thing in the morning, and get it done. Because once you've done your rituals and your exercise, you're already in a better frame of mind to be able to handle that adversity. So that would be my answer.
Jen, what's the hardest thing that you have in your business day that you've got to tackle each and every day?
So I don't think it's like, yeah, it's actually not really business related. It's that morning routine where literally when I get out of bed, it starts with fitness and then, spiritual, mental, and emotional connection time. And so just that getting out of bed, knowing that I have to exercise first is a challenge every single day, but I have to do it because if I have not done that in I think almost 7 years, and I couldn't imagine a day not doing it and setting the tone for the rest of the day. But if it's a business item that I absolutely hate, it's anything to do with bookkeeping. Absolutely, it's like that's all taken care of by other people, thankfully.
That's a good plan. Tonya, hardest thing in the day you got to do related to your business?
It's the same. I do the exact same thing. I get up every morning. I have my cup of coffee. Yes, I own a tea company, but I have 1 cup of coffee a day, and do my meditation. I go exercise. But you know what? I don't even think it's really that hard for me because I actually really enjoy that part of my day. I think the hardest part of my day now, back in the beginning, it was the bookkeeping. I hate that. I don't. It's not my thing. Probably now is getting myself organized, right? I have so many emails to attend to, so many and so for me, it's just prioritizing them in order. And yeah, that's probably the hardest thing for me.
Yeah. It's always trying to find that balance, eh?
Yeah. And I have 3 kids, so they're young, and that's you throw them in that mixture, it gets a little hairy.
Michelle, hardest thing in your business day you got to do?
As I was listening to everybody give their answers, I'm racking my brain. Like, what are the things that are the hardest to get in? I think the things that are hardest to get in are the things that I avoid anyway. It's like, so yeah, I'd give you an unfair response because I feel like, I do get to the bookkeeping stuff, the administrivia. I do all that stuff. I delegate as much as I can. I absolutely do. There are things that I don't like, but there are probably things that I really don't like that I should do that I don't do. I think we're all like that.
Yeah, those are all really good comments. Michelle, I'm going to stay on with you for a second here. You do this wonderful thing called Mo Mondays. I've had a chance to speak at your Mo Monday, I call them mini conferences, primarily in Toronto, which has been a lot of fun for me. And it's all about motivation. And a lot of what you do in your talks in the corporate world are about telling your story. How can we help young student entrepreneurs do a better job at telling their story? They're always fearful of it, right? They're always afraid to really put themselves out there to help them build their brand, to help them build their awareness. What tips can you tell a student today about telling their story?
Well, you already included the answer in your question. I think most people, not just young people, but everybody is uncomfortable. They feel vulnerable, insecure about sharing their story. And I'm going through this right now with a startup technology company out of the U.S. that came to me to help them craft their story for investors, customers, et cetera, and 99.90% of the time after working with them, I realized that their own backstory, what we call the origin story, is by far the most compelling piece of communication that they have to enroll people, whether it's a customer, client, it's a stakeholder of some sort, or an investor, their own backstory. Not only why I do what I do, not only why I decided to do what I do, but how I do what I do. And then there's the why about why I do, how I do what I do, which really is where 9 times out of 10, I find the strongest differentiation for the company. So what advice can we give? Like, think seriously about what problem that you are solving. What is the problem? Why are you so driven to solve this problem? If you could put your finger on that, understand your own backstory about how you came to it and what difference it made in your life and the people around you, that's the, and we talk about motivation. That's your motivation for getting up in the world, because you know you're making a difference.
I love that. I love that. Some of you have employees and some of you don't have employees. And I often hear from entrepreneurs, they tell me one of their biggest frustrations and challenges sometimes is with employees. And my friend Julie Cole always reminds me of the story she tells me with employees that you hire slow and you fire fast when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And secondly, she always told me the line, Steve, with my employees, they're either on the bus with me or they're off the bus. So, Tony, you have employees, I believe. Jen, I think you have employees. David, I don't know if you have employees or collaborators. Michelle, do you have employees?
I used to have a team of 12 people when I was running my ad agency.
So, and here we are working in a COVID world. As an entrepreneur, your employees are all looking up to you to save the day and keep them motivated, when sometimes it's hard enough just keeping our own selves motivated to keep going. What can you tell us about employees? What do you look for? What don't you look for?
Mm-hmm.
So, Tony, I'll start with you.
Me, sorry?
Yep.
So we've had many, many employees over the years. We currently have almost 80. We have, oh boy, I could talk about employees forever. Exactly what, everything Julie Cole said is absolutely true. Learned a lot of hard lessons over the years with employees. First thing that we do now with employees is we put them through some serious testing, especially executives. We do Colby testing with them, Enneagram testing, and that generally gives you a good feel on how they're going to fit into your culture and into your executive team. But it doesn't always work. So I've had some employees that have been just horrendous, like so bad that I can't even tell you how bad it's been. But what I noticed about them now and learning from what I've experienced with them is that the moment you find out that there is any negativity coming from their mouth behind your back, fire them immediately, because that negativity will poison so fast the rest of your employees who are gullible enough to believe they're baloney. Right. And it can be disastrous. So if I have any advice about employees, it is definitely fire fast. If you get a sniff of any negativity from them, gone.
Love it. Jen, I've been watching you here nod your head, and I think you see a lot of similarities with what Tony just said. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're certainly just in really early startup phase. And last year we're at 4 employees and this year at 16. So we really had to ramp up quickly, that is just a big mistake, but sometimes you have no choice. And, really took that advice that the moment I realized somebody wasn't working out, we just had to let them go. And it's, as a startup, it's hard because the rest of the team maybe is not feeling or getting why you're doing things, and you don't need to explain it to them. That's not their job to understand that, but then just creating that morale back super quickly. So yeah, the hardest part of this job for me personally has been the employee side of things. So I'm really grateful that one of those early hires was an HR person, so that I could really hand a lot of the finding the people work over to someone else. But one thing that I've shared with that new team member and realize individually is I remember doing research, and Google, one of the biggest companies we know, did studies on hiring, and it is literally a 50-50 crapshoot, because some people can have the most incredible resumes in the world and then turn out to be like a psychopath. So at the end of the day, we realize we're going in with 50-50. We want to mitigate that as much as possible. But understanding that it's just, you don't know until they're in the role, right? And it's the hardest thing ever, really, honestly.
Because as entrepreneurs, we take things so personally, right? We want, I mean, I know I do. I want to make everyone happy. I just want, to be all like rainbows and butterflies, but it just isn't realistic, right? It's not realistic. And that has been my biggest, hardest lesson over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, is that, employees, I currently have an amazing team right now. Like, it is so good, touch wood, that like we are all just on the same bus and we are driving the same way. And I haven't had that. I don't think I've ever had this before. And, but I also keep my distance from them. Like, I used to become very, very close with people that I was employed with, like to the point where it was too close. And then I got burned for that. So I'm very, I love my employees, but I keep them, I don't get personal with them like I used to. And that's hard as a founder of a company, because you want to be a part of the group, right? But you can't. I've learned you cannot be a part of the group of them, because you're the founder. And it's lonely at the top, and that's why I go and find other entrepreneurs to hang out with, so I can hang out with them, not necessarily my employees. Unfortunately, that's just what I've learned.
And Michelle, you said in the past you've had employees.
I've had employees. I built my ad agency to the point where I was no longer doing the kinds of activities that I loved to do and wanted to do and got into business to do. And I ended up doing HR and hand-holding and babysitting. And I decided it wasn't for me. And that's why I changed the whole structure of my business. But even since then, so with Mo Mondays, pre-COVID, we were up to 16 cities. And we did that through licensing. And licensees are a kind of employee.
Yep.
And I so agree with Tonya when she said, if there's a hint of negativity, get rid of them. There are a couple that I should have gotten rid of sooner. I didn't. And about the 50-50 statistic, when I first started, I was advised to draw up a list of exactly the kind of qualities I was looking for in a licensee. And I could tell you, my best ones would never have fit it. And my worst ones might have fit it perfectly. But it's such a crapshoot. It's just, you got to partly go with your gut and look for the warning signs, really, but also be open to the surprises. The people, sometimes the licensees who I thought, well, I'll try it with them, turned out to be amazing. So you got to recognize those people as quickly as you recognize the negative ones.
Absolutely. 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the fact that you find it at a point in your business that you're able to step away from the actual hiring, and that you have an HR person that can help you, guide you. Because I hear that from entrepreneurs too, that, especially in the starting up phase, that you can grow really uncomfortably tight with a new employee that maybe you've hired. They think because you hired them, they're now your best friend.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, no, they're an employee and you're the employer. So that's tricky. I want to have some fun now. Tonya and Jen, you both appeared on Dragon's Den. Congratulations. One of you said yes, and one of you said no. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, so Tonya, I believe you ended up making a deal.
Yep. So we were on season 7, 2012. I went in there knowing that I wanted to make a deal. Obviously, you go into Dragon's Den not knowing what's going to happen, right? It's a
Yep.
crap. But I didn't go on there just for the exposure. I really truly wanted a partner to help me grow the US, to get me into the US market, or to help me get into the US market. And created a bidding war between all of the dragons, and I ended up being able to choose who I wanted to partner with, which was great. Oh my God, sorry, my cat is here.
That's okay.
And so we ended up partnering with Jim Treliving and David Chilton. Both of them really understood my market really, really well, which was a bonus. And it was the best decision I ever made. You know, we have been on the show 4 more times for updates, commercials. They're always calling me still to this day, asking me to do articles for them, because we were one of their #1 pitches, right? We were like, they used our pitch for almost 2 years to show other entrepreneurs what a good pitch looks like, right? So it was an honor. And Jim and Dave are still in our company till today. Like,
Yeah.
I just Dave yesterday, like, we're super close with them. So it was a no-brainer for me to say yes.
That's awesome. Good story. Jen, you presented on Dragon's Den. Tell me how it worked out and tell me the outcome.
Yes. So again, you don't know what's going to happen. I think the experience for me was definitely not a normal experience, just because it's completely outside of my comfort zone. The business was still really, really new. Like, I was still working my other job while doing this. But I did have a great opportunity. I had a term sheet from her current investment partners in my back pocket as I was pitching. So I was really excited about that term sheet, because it was really an offer. It was $350,000 for 0% of my business. Here's just some money, go grow your business. I've never heard of those kind of deals before. They approached me with it, and it sounded like a great deal to me. So I had that term sheet, but I said, look to Raven Capital. I said, let me go on Dragon's Den, and I'm not signing your term sheet yet, because, you know, who knows what could happen when you go on Dragon's Den. And I would have loved to get a deal with, you know, one of my favorite dragons and have them a part of your team. And, you know, with their network and connections alone is amazing, right? So went and did the pitch and just got one really bad offer, and got great advice. Actually, when I think about and look back at the advice from so many of them, absolutely incredible. So I took the opportunity just to stand there and soak up any insights and information that they could offer. And just Michelle and Arlene being really honest about, this is just too early for you. You shouldn't give up any equity at this early stage of a business. Like, just keep growing it. And that was excellent advice. And so then leaving and having the deal that I had with Raven, that they were really just offering me, it's called a convertible debt deal. So at some point they would take equity, but being able to manage how much that was early on was fantastic. And just having that capital to then, let's go make this sustainable products that we want to make. So incredible. Then this past December, they became an equity partner to us. And so then we got some more money to keep growing, and just realizing how much is amazing it is to just have not worry about funding ever. We just found out that we'll be in Sephora.ca coming this fall. And now I don't have any. I know one of their early concerns, I've been talking to Sephora actually pre-Dragon's Den since 2018. And obviously, as a major international organization, their concerns is the kind of startups they're dealing with. And someone that doesn't have money would be, now I realize how much of a red flag that would be now. So just working with them, knowing that we're really, really well funded.
That's awesome.
It is an awesome story. I've had an opportunity in the past to work with Brett Wilson, who was a Dragons judge way back. as well as Arlene Dickinson. When I was doing some radio work at Chum in Toronto, I had both of them on my shows. And I also worked with Brett at a conference. And I always ask them the question, I'll ask both of you, is Kevin as mean as he seems to be? Or is that just a big act?
Was Kevin on your show, Jen?
No, he's
No.
only on Shark Tank now, right?
So yeah, Kevin left the show, I think a year or two after my episode. But yeah, Kevin's a hardcore person.
Yeah.
He was very interested in our business. He wanted to invest, but he didn't understand our business. He kept
Right.
saying, let's get into Costco. And it's like, no, that's not what we do. But he was nice to us on the show. But then after the show, we went to a Dragon's Den party when we aired. And he was the only one who didn't come up to me and my husband and say, congratulations. Like, that was an amazing pitch, right? Everyone else did. Arlene, of course, Jim and Dave and Bruce was on our show. So he's a little full of himself, I think. I read his book. His book is actually really good, but I don't know. I think he is what he is. Yeah.
I get it. Okay, this is for all of us here. Our next kind of theme. COVID. So COVID hits. March 12th is when our conference was going to be. And last year, it gets shut down. Within not long after, Mohawk College was shut down to in-person learning. Businesses were shut down for people going. Michelle, I can't imagine how many conferences that affected. David, how many speaking gigs? How has COVID affected your overall businesses, and what have you been able to do different? Pivot, if you will. There's a big word of the decade, pivot, to overcome and move forward. So Michelle, let's start with you, because I believe so much of your work was in person, going out and telling those stories.
Yeah, I had the two biggest parts of my business were the live Mo Mondays events, and like I said, we were up to 16 cities across the country. Well, they're gone, and then the other even bigger part of my business was me as a speaker. I've spoken in 9 countries. I've spoken in conferences everywhere. I've done workshops, and and obviously that business went dried up pretty quickly, and and probably the worst part is I had just been asked to be part of a global speakers bureau. And like this was a bureau that's like I'd been hoping to be part of for years, and they sent me they said, hey, we want you, we know what your work, we know you're good. Clients that we've had send you, that we've sent you to, they love you too, so we want you to join our higher tier. And I had just sent in my acceptance. Literally that week was everything's changed. Now, having said that, I'll tell you that 2020 was probably the best year of my life.
Wow.
2020 was probably the best year of my life. For a whole bunch of both personal and professional reasons, it forced me to restructure in ways that I knew I should but didn't. Yes, this opportunity still hurts. This missed opportunity still hurts. But I've allowed myself, I've given myself permission to throw myself into endeavors and passions, that music being one of them, that I was too busy otherwise to do. I've gotten more out of life in the last year than I thought I ever would. I am the happiest guy in the world.
I love it.
And a new grandfather this year.
And another big exciting thing. Yes. Thank you.
David, you did a lot of speaking and in person. How did you have to pivot once this COVID happened?
Actually, for the first 2 months, for the first month, I had any live events morphed into online, so I was okay. But I actually took a couple of months sort of to step back, and I had to do some inner healing, because I was a little bummed out and a little bit shocked, like everybody else was, and what's going to be. So I actually stepped back And I've taken on some really different projects, and my work is shifting and changing to be more purpose driven than ever before. And so one of the projects that I launched in the summer was nothing to do with business training or coaching or sales training or anything like that I normally do. It was I launched what's called 5 day peace challenge, and with guest speakers, because and I also launched a podcast for like right away in March right through to August. And then I launched the Peace Challenge, and I did a global meditation, healing meditation. We had hundreds of people take part. So that was very new territory for me. So it's really about shifting and coming more. It allowed me to come more from my heart center and helping. The other thing I did was I took a chance. I applied for a part time job. I wanted part time. I didn't want to work full time, and I took on a training contract that didn't pay well, but I didn't want to be on serve, and I didn't want to be like beholden to anybody. So I took this on, and it was like the most rewarding 4 month contract I've ever had. And then my business started to come back and take off. And now I'm in a place where I was going to launch a podcast last year. This time I was working on selling it. And now I'm totally revising it. And it's about working with heart centered entrepreneurs who are making a difference and showcasing how people can, as entrepreneurs, we can make a difference. I also launched a group on Facebook called the Peace, Passion, Prosperity Project, too. And it's all about entrepreneurs that can make a difference and make the world a better place. And so that's the new direction. So in a way, it's helpful. But boy, you still have to fight your little inner voice and the fear and move forward. And yeah, and I'm moving forward.
Tony and Jen, I know some of your businesses are online, I think. However, there's still been impacts, I'm certain, on how that operates. So I'll start with you, Tonya. How has this COVID affected, and what have you done to pivot into something positive for your company?
Well, 2018 was the worst year of my life, and in my career, I almost shut this business down. Like I was very close to calling bankruptcy, and we're talking about a $20 million company shutting it down, right? So the reason why was because I noticed our whole business was based on people going into people's homes and doing tea parties, right? And I noticed in 2017, I noticed there was this big shift in our field, our consultants, we call them psephologists, and we have them all across North America. And I noticed that they weren't doing these live events anymore. They were doing social media events. They were doing online, everything was online, and they were super successful at it. So instead of shutting down the business, which I really, really was close to doing with my husband, we decided that, we're going to give this one last go. And we are going to pour all of our money and our marketing dollars into learning social media. And thank God we did, because 2020 hit and we were ready. We were ready. And let me tell you, our business exploded because our business provides jobs. Right? Our psephologists make money off of selling our tea. So we have consultants who are making 6 figures in 2020 because they sold that much tea. It was crazy. So growth is amazing, but then there comes challenges. Keeping up with the growth, having enough staff because you couldn't get them in because of COVID and CERB and everything else, right? Then you've got like supplier issues, you've got shipping issues. I mean, growth is amazing, and I went through it already with Dragon's Den, and this was the second wave of Dragon's Den, and it was intense, but in the back of my mind, yeah, my husband and I worked 10 times harder again than we have in a long time, but knowing that all of our employees were well employed and our consultants were making a lot of money, that just drove us, and we're still driving this company. It's still like on a rocket ship to the moon right now. Personally, it was hard because I had to balance all of that with homeschooling my 3 children, right? My 3 children are, 12, 10, and 8. That was the most difficult part, I think, of this entire year. But in general, it was a good year, and we had to pivot hard, with just supplier issues and all of that stuff. But we had pivoted to online and social media, thank God, 2 years prior to this happening. Otherwise, my business would be gone. Be gone. If I had to depend on people going into people's homes, gone. We shut it down. So it's like that gut feeling, right? You always have to go with your gut. And my gut was telling me I got to get on this social media bandwagon and online. If not, I'm going to die. So,
Good for you.
whew.
Jen, how did things change with COVID?
Well, not too much for us. We built a business using social media, and we've been e-com since day one. And so that was not a challenge for us in the sense that how are we going to drive revenue? We were here for that and set up for that. A big challenge for us was supply chain. So a lot of our raw material suppliers had to shut down because how they were operating, and so that really impacted just, I think, product development launches and plans for the 2020 and into this year as well. But we've been doing okay. Like, we had so much growth because the entire world went online. So
Yeah.
thankfully we were here and ready for that. And so that's where so much of our growth came from. And then we really had a massive spike during July last year during Black Lives Matter, because I'm an Indigenous woman and we're part of the BIPOC community, and the entire social media every social media platform was filled with reasons why you should be supporting different businesses, and a lot of those pushes we definitely benefited from. And so we had the opportunity to think about things differently. We were always using third-party outsourcing manufacturing. We have built our own lab right here in St. Catharines, and we're planning on manufacturing a lot of our products right here. Hired a full-time chemist, QA people. So really how we operate is really shifting. And it's interesting when Tony is talking about jumping online. The market now online is so saturated that we spend a ton of money on social ads. It's not as effective as it once was when you were a small brand in that space. Now every massive company in the world is there, as well as every small business that started during COVID. And so we're really working hard with our marketing team, our agencies, to figure out where we're going to put those ad dollars. But definitely it'll be going to different sort of social media platforms. One for us, like TikTok, is massive at this point. So just, being really agile and understanding the digital world is extremely important, and how fast it shifts. Adding applications, try on services through our web platform by working really hard with our developers and engineers to create an incredible online experience. So we have a lot of work to do in that area, but knowing that that's where we're going to see more customer retention and conversion when we offer them opportunities to try our products on. The beauty industry itself will change massively because of COVID. They're going to try on makeup in store won't happen again, which is really great for an e-com business, but you have to figure out how you're going to get the perfect product to the right customer. And so thankfully the world is so technology driven that they are developed, and they have developed incredible applications, Shade Finder being one of them, where it's this massive in-depth analysis that will help your customer pick the right shade when you're launching products. So we're here for that. And then we knew that innovation portion of the actual products that we're making, we really we don't just preach sustainability, we're actually doing it. And so we can really educate our community about, like, our life cycle analysis is done in-house with our sustainability experts, from harvest of the raw ingredients, where they're sourced ethically. Is it sustainable? Something organic doesn't necessarily mean it's actually sustainable. Organic farming actually takes up way more land space than regular farming. So we have a team on board to help share that part of our story using raw ingredients native to Canada, incredible actives in our backyard here in Niagara. So working with wineries to pull incredible oils from products that we're going to be putting into new products that we'll be creating. So that innovation portion for us is huge, whether it's technology driven innovation or in-house raw supply innovation.
I just heard from 4 really interesting entrepreneurs, and you talk about resilience. So here we have this thing, COVID happens, and all 4 of you figured out ways to move forward, change if you had to change, pivot if we have to use that word again, to make it happen and to keep it going, which is outstanding. We're going to wrap up here. We asked our students and community members to send in some questions. So I picked some questions. And remember, in our promotion that we previously sent out, they've already seen your bios and they know a bit about your company. So, Tanya, the first question was for you. Were you nervous presenting to Dragon's Den?
Nope, I wasn't. I was nervous when we got the call saying we were going on Dragon's Den, because then I had to like take a month to prepare. I was nervous about that. But once I got there, oh gosh, no, I was so excited. I was just, I felt like all the stars were aligned that day. We had amazing sales. We were profitable. I was pregnant with my son. I was like basically going to have birth on the television show. I actually wanted that. They're like, oh my God, that'd be so great if you went to labor. I'm like, yeah, for you, maybe. No, I wasn't at all nervous. I was pretty pumped. I was pretty excited.
That's exciting, but it sounds like you were prepared though.
Yeah, very prepared. If I wasn't prepared, I would be nervous as all hell.
Yep. Michelle, I know your musical background, and we both share a bit of a musical background, as you know. And a student asked for Michelle, who's a motivational speaker, what music do you play that will motivate you or get you riled up before you go and do a talk? Do you have a favorite music that you play?
It changes, but I get asked that question periodically, and I always chuckle to myself. First of all, my musical tastes range, they're huge. Like I love a lot of different kinds of music. When I'm going into a talk, I'm going to speak. First of all, I got to be careful about my voice. I got to warm it up. I got to do all that stuff. So I'm not going to do anything too crazy right away. But I do like the rap. I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but I remember driving to a talk, and Rihanna's song, Sticks and Stones and I'm shouting along, singing along to that song at the top of my lungs. I said, what am I singing? What is this? But it was great, like that. Anthem-y songs. Bruce Springsteen has a lot of them. And of course, the problem with Bruce Springsteen is once you start, you can't stop. There are so many. But yeah, I definitely... music.
I love it. It's great. There. The next question goes to Jen. And I got to tell you, Jen, in one of my classes that we do classes on Zoom, and I'm going through our lineup of speakers a few weeks ago for this panel, and I've had a shared screen, and your picture came up with your company name, and this student in my class right off the bat says, I love Cheekbone Beauty. So good for you. It was a student from Hamilton.
I love that.
So I think it's that individual who sent me this question was, how did you come up with the name Cheekbone Beauty?
There's a few reasons. One, I was listening to a podcast with the founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, and she talked about, so the idea about the brand, it was probably in 9 months. it took me to figure out a name. And she talked about the K sound and how people remember words with the K sound, and comedians use words with Ks, and it's just more memorable. So I remembered that from the podcast. And then I remember thinking about just something that I absolutely adored on humans, all humans, was cheekbones. And of course, you know, many Indigenous people are known for having high cheekbones. And then the more sort of marketing research I did on it, it was the people with high cheekbones are perceived as more trustworthy. So then it all just worked out, grabbed the word, might have spelt it differently now, you know, but thankfully, I think it was just this January, we got a letter from the US Patents and Trademarks Office saying that we have the word cheekbone with our logo in it and that we own it.
Good
Took
for you.
like a long time, but we got it.
Good for you. David, last question. And again, these have been coming in from students. It says, David has written 2 books about entrepreneurship. Is there a 3rd book in the works?
I'm going to say not right now, but yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you're always thinking, and the books are a great way certainly to promote you and to promote the David Cohen brand, correct?
Yeah, they are, and that's really why I do it. You know, you're not going to, unless I'm like a big author, you know, you're not going to get rich quick off of your book. So,
Yeah.
And I'm not really hell bent on being, you know, the bestseller and buy my book and get this. That's not my style. I'm a little understated maybe when it comes to my books, but I just like to write, and that's really it. I like to write and share my ideas, and that's really how my books have come about. It's been more about like a passion project. Like
Yeah.
the latest one, the weekly 3 weekly ideas to turbocharge your life and business, just came from writing a blog, and each week I would share a lesson I learned in my work and my business, and then here were 3 weekly tips that you could take. So yeah, and the next one's going to be a lot smaller of a book. It's about the Swift method of living, how to really live powerfully and in balance. And we're a world out of balance. So Swift stands for social, work, inner, financial, taken care of. It's a concept I came up with a long time ago. Like I swear it was channeled to me, and or gifted to me by somewhere we don't even know. And it's really about when you live a day where you have a social goal, a work or business goal, your inner, which is meditating, learning, whatever, financial and taking care of. So taking care of is your health, your family. When you have that going on in one day, you're in the zone. You cannot not be, and that's what the book will be about.
David, I still have, I believe, the first book you wrote that you gifted to me with a wonderful inspirational message inside. So thank you again for that. We're at the end. 4 outstanding entrepreneurs, Tonya, Michelle, David, Jen, on behalf of the Mohawk College students, faculty, alumni, our community partners, we thank you so much for joining us today. Let's stay connected, you know, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, let's stay connected. But again, I wish you all continued success on your entrepreneurship paths that you've chosen. And from what I heard today, I don't think there's anything stopping you. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you,
It was
everyone.
nice meeting all of you.
Yeah, what a joy.